All right, we'll begin our class today in a seated position just for a brief moment. I'm sitting on my heels in Vajrasana, simply because I'm going to move over into hands and knees into tabletop, and this is just an easy transition. You're welcome to begin for a few moments in child's pose or an easy seated position with your ankles crossed out in front of you. And just take a moment to check in and notice any areas that seem extra open, extra communicative. Maybe they're saying something to you. Listen to what they're saying. And so it could be tired, it could be tight, sore, really good, open, pain-free. Just hear the words, hear the sounds, hear the sensations in your body, and listen to your nervous system here for just a few moments as you gather your breath and check in with the breath communication as well. So listen to how your breath is moving in and out of your nose, from your belly, in and up. As you're here, you might notice then, I'm reaching forward, I'm sitting forward, I'm scrunching, I'm lifting. So you notice the areas that you can soften. That's why we're taking a moment just to listen. Maybe a big sigh out of your nose or out of your mouth if that feels like it's an extra moment and an extra opportunity for you to connect deeper inside. Notice wherever you are, if your core is normally working just to support the posture and support your spine. Notice if it's overworking and sucking in. Try to get that to open up and be a little bit more fluid and wave-like in your breath, but not sloppy or dumpy, right? We've got a nice control contraction or abdominal contraction, allowing breath to move in and out productively through tall spine because the core is engaged to hold that spine up. Back muscles, remind them that they should be also engaged to produce that tall posture and encourage smooth breath. Okay, and then I'm going to go on into tabletop. Take as long as you'd like. If you want a little longer here to just be with your breath and sit and understand your body and what it's telling you, take as long as you need. When you are ready, I'm going to gently move right over into hands and knees, separating my knees slightly. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. I'm going to flip my toes back. You could also tuck your toes under, especially if you're feeling a little crampy in the arches. Breathing right into the neutral spine here. Again, the core is engaged. Spinal muscles are strong and tall. Push down from the backs of your shoulder blades without rounding your upper back. Let your chest move beyond the armpit creases. And keep the nice smooth curve and extension in your low back, so we're not trying to flatten out the low back. In fact, you're pulling your ribs away from your waist, creating a more natural curvature in your lower spine, the lumbar spine. And then from here, take a big inhale and expand your ribs forward a little bit. Look forward a little bit. And then on the exhale, draw the ribs up and push from your belly into the front of the back spine to round the back of your spine up to the ceiling and look down. Inhale, pinch your index finger and thumb together so that your fingers aren't overspread, those two fingers, and spread your ribs towards the front of the room. Spread your sit bones towards the back of the room and look forward. Exhale, press into those two fingers and then out through the rest of the palm. Pull your belly up, push into your knees, press the back of your spine up to the ceiling, look down. Inhale, again, fan your ribs open towards the front of the room, towards your armpits, towards your elbows. Spread out your sit bones, open your chest, Look forward. And one more exhale. Round. Inhale, come back to center. Tabletop pose. I'm going to take this into a twist. I'm going to walk my left hand over and then my right hand to the center of my mat. And my left hand, I'm going to set it forward a little bit so that I can take my right hand, and from where my right hand was, that's where I'm going to put my right shoulder, right in the middle of my knees. I'm going to stretch my arm through and set that shoulder head down in the center spot of my mat, left hand on the floor, and then right side of your head to the floor. And then look up to the ceiling or back towards the back side of the room, the back end of the room. Push down equally into both knees and press down into your right shoulder. Instead of trying to roll onto your back, press down into your right arm and stretch out through your right fingers. Keep both knees equally pressed. Hips, try to keep them level. We're not jacking them forward or back or shoving them anywhere. Place your left palm back on the floor so you can push your left arm straight and take your right hand back over under your right shoulder. Situate your left hand back under your left shoulder. Tabletop pose. All right, I'm going to walk off to the right now. So my left hand's going to come center, and I'm going to take my right hand over and forward, just so there's room for my left hand to go through. And again, I'm eyeballing that spot on my mat. It's right in the center of, like where my pubic bone is, right in the center of my mat. That's where my left shoulder is going to set down, the outer left shoulder head. And then I'm going to thread my left arm through, bend the right elbow, set that left shoulder down. Push down into your left shoulder, press down into your right knee, and then use your right hand on the floor, your fingertips or your palm, to turn open. And again, you can look back or up towards the ceiling, but keep pressing down into the left shoulder and the right knee, also the left knee. And try to keep your hips level here. Not necessarily squared, just level, so one hip's not higher than the other. Try to keep the left hip from dropping down. And in fact, lengthen out the left side of your waist. All right, right hand flat. Press the floor away with your right arm and situate yourself back under your shoulders with your wrists, tabletop position. And again, it's just a neutral spine. Lengthen your ribs again. Lengthen the sides of your waist, both sides. And then cross your ankles and come back to seated. And take your legs out in front of you. Dandasana staff pose. Press down into your sit bones, press out through the balls of your feet. You can have your hands flat on the floor. I'm just going to use my fingertips on the floor here. I just want to sit here and feel the weight the perspective has shifted. You know, I'm in a seated position now. I'm facing forward. The weight's off your hands. And get the weight now to fall down into your sit bones and engage the belly for that proper spinal support. I'm going to take this into a one-leg Hastapada, a hand to foot position. So it's kind of like Hastapadangishtasana. So I'm going to take my right foot in and hold the foot with both hands. So my fingers just hook around the bottom of my right foot. And then you don't have to straighten your leg out all the way. You're going to lean back a little bit into your sit bones, so not down towards your tailbone or your sacrum. So leaning back almost like you would for boat pose, Pariparnavasana. And you can bend and straighten your leg here. And as you straighten your leg, inhale and lift your chest up to the ceiling. And as you exhale, you can soften down a little bit. Let your gaze go with your foot. Inhale, look up past your foot, then to the ceiling. Exhale, keep pressing out through your left foot. And concentrating your energy in your core and your back muscles to help hold you up here. Shoulders are not rounded and being pulled forward by your foot. So in fact, you're resisting from the back of your shoulder blades, pulling your hand on your foot from the upper back, the trapezius, and the muscles around the shoulder blades. Okay, and then bend the right knee, take your right heel down and straighten out your right leg and come back more onto the front of your sit bones, back into that Dandasana shape. So before we were kind of sitting back on the sit bones, now you're sitting forward. Let your tailbone tilt back, let your the hips tilt anteriorly. All right, so now drag your left heel in and we'll do the second side. So I'm gonna grab the foot with my hands and I'm leaning back just a little bit. Again, you could keep the knee bent here and straighten it out slightly. If there's just no way you can get your hand to your foot here, please feel free to use a belt, but try to resist, pulling your elbows in too much. Okay, so it's really happening from the hamstrings bending the knee and the quad muscles straightening the leg. And as you inhale, straighten your leg, lift your chest up to the ceiling. Again, pull back on those shoulder muscles and then bend your knee. You can take your gaze down towards your foot. And then inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale. Take this just a couple more rounds of breath. If you want to stay in a straight leg variation, press out through the right foot, keep the left thigh engaged, pulling the kneecap up rather than pushing the kneecap away. So it draws up towards your hip crease rather than pushing it down towards the floor. And bend your knee, foot down, and then scooch out your left leg, straighten it back out, and resituate on your sit bones. Dandasana staff pose. I'm going to take this into revolved head of the knee pose, Parivrit Janu Shirshasana. I'm going to turn so you can see. I'm going to take my left leg out to the side. Right foot up to the inner left thigh, heels right in line with my pant seam or the pubic bone. Right shin is rolling down to the floor and my right thigh is rolling back. So there's an external rotation in both the lower and the upper leg. So here, this rolling out motion, top of my foot pressing down into the floor. You're welcome to simply stay here and enjoy a sitting posture with both sit bones pressing straight down into the earth and then pressing out through your left big toe. So the foot's not turning back or in. So pressing straight through the left big toe. Engage your left thigh, squeeze that left kneecap up to the left hip. And if you'd like to add in the side bend, you're welcome to stretch out over your left leg with your left hand. You can just look up to the ceiling with your gaze. Your right shoulder stays open. So it's not forward bending over, it's a side bend. Rolling your right ribs open, pulling your belly button through, and taking your left ribs through. And the belly button, once it pulls through, it hooks up behind your ribs. And then I like to take my hand to my foot and just kind of pull the toes back. Open up here. So this is just a very gentle stretch to warm up. We're not going for the full throttled posture here. If it's too much on your neck muscles to look up, just gaze down towards the floor, out past your right hip. Good, and then inhale, come back up to seated. And we're going to move this right into a twist. So I'm going to take this right foot over and the left leg comes out and around. Actually, I'm going to take it in front of my left ankle. I think this would be better to start. So I'm going to take the left heel up to the right ankle crease. And my left sit bone is right behind the right heel. The left heel is right in front of the right ankle. And then from here, I'm going to take my left hand back. I'm going to lean back a little bit so that I can make space for my belly to bypass my right thigh, or left thigh. And then I'm going to hook with my right arm and twist towards the left. So again, it's just a gentle twist. I was going to go into a half Lord of the Fishes. I feel like that might be too intense, but if this is a practice that you've done later in the day, or you're doing it later in the day, or you've already done something prior to this, and this is in the morning for me, so I just seem too early, you're welcome to modify this to suit your personal needs where you are right now. And to deepen it, you would take the knee closer and the foot over if you're interested in getting a little deeper. It's feeling kind of crunchy right now for me, so I'm gonna take it easy. inhale as you release your twist. And then I'll switch my sides out for that side bend, Parvrit Janu Shirshasana. Again, I've got my right leg out and I'm pressing out through the ball of the right foot right away. So if your right leg comes out too far and you feel like your right sit bone lifts up, take the right leg in a little bit so that both sit bones can plug down on your mat, okay? Engage that right thigh, pull the kneecap up. You're pushing out through the big toe mound. Your shin and thigh are externally rotating away from each other. So the top of my foot is on the floor, and again, my heel is lined up with the center with the belly button. And you can enjoy here a nice seated position, just feeling the space here that you can feel that pressing away of the tibia and the femur so they're not pinching the meniscus. And then if you wanted to add in the side bend, I'm just going to simply lean out over my right foot and then let my left ribs open. Belly button slides up to the ceiling. Even though it's drawing in and up, it's turning up to the ceiling. Right ribs are pulling through, but my right shoulder is not turning down. So I'm keeping the armpit open. And again, I like to take hand to the foot and kind of press into the hand, and that gives a really good stretch up here in my shoulder, and I feel some detangling of the nerves. Kind of feels good. You can look up or you can look out past your left thigh, left hip. Keep your left sit bone down and keep the left thigh pressing down. So you can feel the right side working, left side stretching a little bit more. Okay, and then inhale, come up to seated. So again, I'm going to set up for that twist. I'm just going to take my left heel over so it's under my right sit bone, and my right heel is in front of my left ankle. And then again, I'm going to just kind of square everything off here as best as I can, hips to heel squaring off rather. So my left sit bone and the left knee are not necessarily in line. I want my heel, right sit bone in line. And then I'm going to turn off to the left. Right hand's going to lean back a little bit so that I'm not wobbling. So I'm leaning back into this a little bit more so that my left knee can press out. Both sit bones can stay on the floor. And I can open up into a gentle twist here and try to get that left side to move past the right side. I mean, it's not going to go past it, but it's the direction it's going in, right? So those are just directional inspiration. It's not like you got to get there. Keep your chest open, keep your ribs open so that your ribs aren't collapsing down on each other or down on your hips. Okay, on your inhale, release your twist. I'm going to come back to face forward, Navasana, Paripurna Navasana, boat pose. Situate your sit bones back to both being comfortable on the floor. And in boat pose, here what we're going to do is we're going to try to stay on the front of the sit bones and lean your chest back. And so it's not coming to the back of your sit bones or the coccyx, the tailbone, or the sacrum. We don't want to come down to the sacrum in this. This is Paripurna, full boat, not half boat. In half boat, you would be down here. In full boat, you're sitting right here on the fronts of those sit bones, the ischial tuberosities. So a good way to just get used to that is to hook your hands around your shins and lean back and just simply pull your heels up. And then maybe your feet come up. And then maybe your hands come out. And then maybe your feet come up higher. So you just stop where you can go without wobbling down to the backs of your sitting bones. Maybe your knees can straighten out. Squeeze your thighs if you're straightening out your knees and lift your chest up to the ceiling. And open your heart. Arms stretch forward, feet press forward. You can gaze towards your ankles or your toes here. Chest up to the ceiling. This is definitely more of a hip flexor, not so much of a core. So the core is working to hold you up, but you're going to feel it more here. Which is fine because we're getting ready for We're getting ready for standing postures and balancing postures, not dance. I mean, maybe you're getting ready for dance. I don't know. All right, take your feet down to the floor, and then I'm going to push up with my hands, coming all the way over into my toes, and then I'm going to take this into Utkatasana, fierce pose. So right here, I'm going to take my chest up, heels start to press down to press my hips up higher, but knees go down towards my toes, and then I reach my arms, or you can keep your arms at heart, and open your chest into a back bend here. Ankles are squeezing together, but your knees are not. The knees are pointing straight down, so they're not coming in and pointing into the big toes. Press your arms straight, lift your chest up. If you can't look up, at least take your arms up as high as you can, and shoulder mobility may keep you out here, and that's fine, but lift your chest up. Press to straight leg stand. Exhale, samastitihi. You can take your feet apart here and move into any kind of hip circle, hip movement if that was bothering your low back. And come into a standing position. We're going to move into Vrikshasana, tree pose, and then flow through a few standing positions. So for the first standing balance posture, Vrikshasana is tree. I'm going to have my feet closer together. I'm going to take my right foot up off the floor without shifting my weight over to my left foot. So what you do is you take the weight with you that the right leg was supporting when you lift your right leg up. So you push down into your left foot to push your right foot up. Take the right foot up the front of your left thigh as high as you can get it, and then turn your toes out. If your foot's on your knee, guess what? You're not going to blow your knee out. It's not the end of the world. You can reach down and help pull your foot up higher. And then spin your heel forward. Right glutes down, left hip bone lifts. Push down into the ball of your left foot and use your toes. Dig in. You can reach your arms here if you'd like. Squeeze your outer right hip in and squeeze your outer left hip in. Pull your shoulders open. Chest reaches beyond your shoulders. Gaze down past the bridge of your nose towards the floor. We're going to move this into high lunge, Ashtha Chandrasana. So hands can come to hips or heart center, and then right foot back. Give your right hip a moment to stretch out after that external rotation. Ooh, find your balance. So I've not stepped back far enough. I need to scooch my left foot forward. All of my right toes are on the mat, pushing my right heel up to the ceiling, and then lift your chest up to the ceiling. So this is not about how low can you go. Feel a wonderful stretch around the front of that right hip, along the front of your hip, and lift your heart up to the ceiling. This is an energizing posture. It's also a balancing posture. So getting lower to the ground actually makes balance easier. Try to challenge it by not sinking so low, and squeeze those two front hip bones in, pushing your chest up, sinking your tailbone down, not dropping the tailbone down. Now I'm going to turn this into warrior two. Hands come to heart. I'm going to spin to the right and turn the right heel back and down. So the right heel didn't just drop in and down. It pushed back and down. Virabhadrasana B, open your arms, bend that left knee forward, and press back into your right heel, your outer foot, and lift your inner foot up. Press your left knee, the inside of your left knee, straight forward. Inhale, reverse warrior. Keep bending the left knee. Lift your left hip up. Lift your left hand up. Slide your right hand down your right leg. Open your chest to the ceiling. And then exhale or inhale, come up. Spin on your right foot. Step forward. Find your balance. Lift your right knee. So when I say inhale or exhale, I really don't care which breath you use, just breathe. You'll pick it back up, all right? Just breathe. I'm balancing here on my left foot, again, just like we did for tree. I'm gonna reach down, my left hand to my left hip, right hand to right knee. You can stay here, or you can grab your big toe with your arm coming inside your calf. Try not to lean down with your chest. Squeeze your left glutes. Your left hip is now extending. And then you can start to press out through your right foot. Uttirastha Padangusthasana. A. Pull your right shoulder in and back into the shoulder joint. And try not to lift your right hip. Squeeze those left hamstrings, left glutes. Zip your belly in and up, but don't over contract, you'll fall over. And then slowly lower your right leg down. Standing pose, samastitihi. I'm going to take a chaturanga vinyasa because I like it. You can skip it. You can stay in standing or enjoy a forward bend here. If you're moving through chaturanga or a forward bend, inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, forward bend, uttanasana. Please enjoy a moment here. You can hang, grab opposite elbows, frame your arms, or you can step back or shoot back, chaturanga. I'm gonna step back, one foot, and then the next into plank pose. Inhale. Exhale, bend your elbows, lower your belly button. Flip to the tops of your feet. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. You're also welcome to, from that standing forward fold, skip the chaturanga and step back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. If you're in down dog, pinch the mat with your index finger and thumb. Lift your chest open down towards the floor so it's not collapsing up into your back. Lift your sit bones up to the ceiling, open your sit bones, and open your back here. Okay, I'm going to step up, coming back up to the top of the mat. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, Samastitihi, standing pose. Okay, side two. Stepping my feet together, starting with Vrikshasana, tree pose. Again, when I move into tree pose, I'm going to take the weight that my left leg is supporting up with it, so I don't shift my weight off to the right and then wobble around. Both legs are energized, belly is engaged, supporting the postural height. And then I'm going to press down into my right heel as I lift up my left heel, slide it up as high as I can get it, put it on the front of my thigh, and then turn my heel and my knee open. Squeeze in with the outer right hip and press back into your right thigh from the outer left hip. So the outer left hip, inner left thigh, is pushing your inner left heel, or your left heel into your inner right thigh. And then you can take your arms up if you'd like. Squeeze your right glutes and hamstrings. Lift your right hip bone, drop your left glutes. Squeeze your right thigh to prevent your right knee from hyperextending, because your right glutes and hamstrings can pull that right knee back by pushing your hip forward too much, and then the femur presses the shin back. So squeeze the thigh bone to resist that overextension. Okay, and then we're going to move back into that high lunge. Take your hands to heart or hips, slide your left leg down and back to the end of your mat. Take as long as you need to situate your feet. If you feel this is too wobbly, take your right foot off to the right a little bit. Maybe you stepped back in too far and it feels like it's just too close. Heels should be lined up with the sit bones ideally, but they can be farther apart. And again, all the pinky toes press the left heel up to the ceiling. So you're using your left glutes and hamstrings to push the left hip bone higher and produce a nice open stretch along the front of the left hip. So the right knee then can bend a little bit more if you need more in that left hip. But dropping down to the floor and bending your left knee and tucking under isn't going to do anything. It's actually going to jam and it's going to hurt the hip if you bend your back knee. Keep your left knee straight. Instead, if you need a little bit less in the back, come out of the right knee bend. Yep. Press the front of your right heel forward, so the front edge of your right heel into your mat.
And squeeze those two hip bones in towards each other. Chest can come up, gaze can go up, arms stretch up, use your triceps. Press down into your right heel from the top of your right thigh. Okay, and then again, I'm going to take my hands to heart and turn my left heel back and down instead of in and down, warrior two. So hopefully your heels are lined up here. Arms can open. Bend that right knee forward. Scooch forward a little bit. My feet are slippery. They're sliding all over the place. So that left heel drives back, inner left foot lifts. The outer left shin is pressing the left foot down. You can feel the stretch in the calf muscles. Bend your right knee forward. Inner right knee goes straight forward. Inhale, reverse warrior. Stretch your left hand down, bend your right knee, lift your belly, lift your chest, lift your ribs. You can look up or forward, maybe even down and back. Okay, then inhale, come up, and we're gonna step up to the front of the mat. Exhale, inhale, exhale, right? So just breathing that transition. There isn't an appropriate corresponding breath, so just breathe, normal breath. Balance on your right foot. Maybe just hold the left knee up a little bit. Maybe it needs to set down, right? Right hand to hip, left hand to left shin. Activate your left foot so it's not just dead weight here. You're really squeezing your right glutes again in your hamstrings because you're going to extend that hip again. And if you're going to straighten out your left leg, you're going to use your left thigh and the left front hip. I'm going to lift my knee up higher so I can reach down to my big toe. Again, try not to round. And maybe you're just staying here without even pressing the left leg straight. But pull that left shoulder back and push into your left hand with your left big toe. Then you can drive your left heel forward. So then left kneecap and left second toe point in the same direction. Engage your biceps, engage your shoulder muscles, engage your triceps. Pull back, but you're not bending your elbow. The biceps is just to keep you from pulling forward. So it's a pulling back instead of a bending and flexing of the elbow. Push down into the inner big toe mound of the right foot. Squeeze the two hips, squeeze your right glutes, squeeze your right hamstrings a lot. Use your toes on your right foot. Help you. They help you for balance. Get them wobbly. Don't let that left hip lift. Drive the sit bone down. Good, and then slowly lower down. Okay, again, I'm going to take a chaturanga vinyasa just to clear it out. You can move into a forward bend or right back into downward facing dog. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Step back or float back. Inhale. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha. And exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Always child's pose, right? You can always take that. There's always that one. It's a good one. Okay, and then inhale your knees to the floor. And then we're going to move this into a wide leg forward fold, a seated wide leg forward fold. So I'm going to take, again, facing you so you can see. I'm going to take my legs out wide. If you want something under your heels, if you're on a floor that hurts the backs of your heels, scooch back so your heels are on your mat or put extra padding underneath them. Same thing here. You want your big toes pointing straight out. Just same thing as that revolved Janu Shirshasana we did. So when I had the one knee bent, we're just taking both legs down the wide angle. Thighs are engaged, pulling the kneecaps up. The feet aren't turning out or in. Big toes going straight out. Almost like you're pushing on a gas pedal with the foot. And then you can stay upright here. Or you can start to forward fold. When you forward fold, your hips are going to tilt, which means your femurs are going to want to turn. So you have to actively, externally rotate your thighs, even though they're not going back. Your hips are turning. down, and that means the thighs are going to go with them. So when the hips rotate down, the thighs need to roll back. And you come down to forearms. You can come out to fingertips, but push out through the balls of your feet. Keep your chest open so you can breathe up into the tips of your lungs, which are right under your collarbones. So if you're collapsing down, it's not going to be great breath. Also, the diaphragm is going to be pushed and not able to fill up or pump to fill up your lungs. You could always rest your forehead on blocks here, but try not to collapse down in your chest. So keep your chest going towards your forearms or towards the floor, and keep pressing out through the balls of your feet. Okay, inhale, come back up to seated, walk back in. Take your left leg straight forward and your right foot towards your left foot or left leg, and then up and in, Janu Shirshasana. You can turn around, face back to the front of your mat if you'd like here, if you want the back of your heel on your mat. Same thing as revolved, the top of the right foot on the floor, the shin and the thigh are rolling away from each other. Both sit bones are on the floor, your hip bones are pointing straight forward, and then fold out over your left leg. Like tree pose, push into the foot from your outer right hip, squeezing that right knee in towards the left leg, but it's going to point out, okay? Press out through the ball of your left foot and stretch back through the left sit bone behind you. Engage that left thigh, pull the left kneecap up, and then inhale, come up to seated. And we'll switch sides. Take the right knee in, left or right leg out then. Left foot's gonna switch out, pull up, draw it up, and then turn to the outer left foot towards the top of your left foot. Again, your hips are pointing straight forward, your left knee is squeezing in, and you're pushing down at the same time with the outer left thigh as you're squeezing your left knee in. Press out with your right foot, engage that right thigh, and stretch out over your right leg. Again, keep your chest moving towards your big toe. Stretch back through your right sit bone. And keep that left knee, left shin actively searching for the floor. Put a block under it if it feels like it's too far away, need something to push into for some extra stability. You can put a blanket under there as well. Engage your right thigh, come back up to seated, inhale, and then lift the left knee. Okay, I'm gonna turn and face forward. Cross ankles and come over into hands and knees. I'm moving to child's pose, balasana. Knees apart, big toes touch. And then my heels and my sit bones are magnetized. I'm drawing my sit bones down towards my heels. Then take your hands out, and then your forehead down. And keep the tailbone moving down towards the floor. Rounding in your back here, not this. So the sit bones down, forehead down. Arms help press just like downward facing dog. Okay, I'm going to move up into Shirshasana, Salam Shirshasana headstands. I'm going to come up into an elbow supported tabletop. You're welcome to stay here. Interlace your fingers and rest your forehead on your thumbs. And then let your heart just elevate above your head slightly here in this position. So this is a great option and modification for Shirshasana headstand. And then the next add-on would be to tuck your toes and lift your knees. Notice I'm not pressing my shoulders back. I'm pressing down, and again, your head can rest on your thumbs. Maybe even the top of your head rest on the heels of your hands, the thumb pads.
And that kind of mentally prepares you more for a forehead stand. Your wrists push down to the floor here. Shoulders open up and press to the ceiling. This is actually harder for me than headstand, so if you're taking this, maybe take a few moments to take a break. I'm getting shaky. And then come down and rest, and then try that again. Otherwise, if you're taking Shirshasana headstand, you can start to open your palms with interlaced fingers, back of your head into your hands, flattest part of the top of your head on the floor. Keep your neck long and your upper back open so you're not rolling down, you're just looking to your big toes. And then you can straight leg lift up or bent knee, heels to butt. And feel free to go to the wall here, okay? If you have your feet on the wall, this is one way to work it. Or if your back is to the wall, then your heels can come up to the wall. Press down into your wrists and elbows. Open your chest, open your shoulders. There's an extension in the low back. You're not flattening out your spine. You're not straightening it out. Press up through your feet. Squeeze your thighs. Pull your kneecaps back up towards your hip creases. Press down into your head so your neck muscles are working. Press into your wrists, press into your elbows, press up with your feet. And breathe up into your top ribs. Make sure you're pressing equally into both elbows. And then slowly start to either bend your knees and take your heels to your butt and then lower your feet back down to the floor, or straight leg, lower down. Child's pose. For this one, I'm going to take my knees together, heels to butt, forehead to the floor. Actually, it's more like my, up here past my hairline to the floor. And then arms back. And take as long as you need here until your breath has quieted down a little bit. And you feel like your jaw is no longer gripping, if it was. And your tongue is soft. And your shoulders are relaxed. And then you can come up to seated when you're ready. I'm going to come into Malasana garland pose. So right here, I can move right into it. I'm just going to come over to hands and knees, tuck my toe pads under, keep my feet together, squeeze the ankles together, and start to come back onto my feet. Stay on your toes if your heels don't hit, but do take your heels together and your big toes together. That action is going to take your knees away like you would for bound angle, and then roll down towards the floor with your butt and your heels. Even if the heels are not touching, you're moving down towards the floor with your tailbone and the heels. Put a blanket under your heels or a block or anything that you can pad up. Maybe roll the mat up a little bit, the back end of your mat, roll it up and give it a little boost. I'm just going to fold down here. I like to take the fold. You can wrap around with your arms if you want. Grab your heels. You can take your arms back. Anything goes. But it's a forward bend, right? It's not this opening and stretching your back out. Or not, it's not even a back stretch. That would be more of a back work. So if you're opening, your back muscles are engaging. This is supposed to be the back muscles stretching and relaxing, spreading across the sacrum, across the SI joints, really pressing and opening up that area, compressing your hips, giving your hips a good, healthy compression. We want that. That stress on your joints is good for your joint health. Okay, and then I'm gonna come up and set up for Salam Sarvangasana, shoulder stand now. I'm just gonna come back into the kneeling position. I'm gonna show you shoulder stand with a chair, just because a lot of people that I work with, shoulder stand is not the favorite pose to get into. And sometimes it's not for me, it has to be a good day. So I'm gonna show you with a chair. This is pretty interesting. You probably want a blanket on your chair seat just in case this is uncomfortable and cold, but definitely a bolster underneath the chair seat. This can be awkward to get into, so it may be nice for you to have your chair against the wall. I'm not going to use it on the wall because I want to sit on the chair seat and have my knees draped over the back of the chair back. And another option here is to be on the floor with your head back here more. Your hips can be on the bolster and then your feet on the chair seat and push up. I'll show you both, okay? So I'm going to come into the first, well, I'll come into the second one that I mentioned. I'm just going to come into a reclining position, hips on the bolster. And then this, if you feel like you have a crunch like this with your, okay, so it's not that bad for me, but if your chin is into your chest, put some blankets under your shoulders to lift your shoulders up, but the blankets would not come up under your neck. Okay, then for this one, you would have your heels on the chair seat and just start to lift yourself up off the chair seat. And you can snuggle your shoulders in and under, and your hands can start to hold your hips. Maybe work up to your back. You could lift one leg up here. If you're taking this variation, the back of my left leg, the glutes and the hamstrings are working. Okay, so that's gonna be a hamstring strengthening exercise as well. And then you can switch sides. Okay, so that's option one. When you come out of that, your shoulders move back open and lower your hips back down to the chair seat. And you can rest in a Supta Baddha Konasana with your feet hooked on the chair. All right. The second option, take your time. If you need to rewind, stop the video, rewatch it. Okay. I'm going to now sit on my chair. Okay. And then take my knees over the back of the chair. So if you feel like this is scary and you need somebody to help you, you could have somebody, close by to spot you and just help you transition down. I'm gonna grab the chair back, slide down. This is where the blanket will come in handy if this is digging into your back. I'm gonna take my hands on the chair legs and I'm gonna start to lower down towards the bolster. Notice my feet start to lengthen out so I can slide back. This is fine on my back. I mean, I feel like I have a very high pain threshold, so I don't feel much anymore. So if this is really digging into your low back, put a blanket under the chair or have someone holler at somebody to get you a blanket. Also, if you need a bigger bolster, if you feel like you're here, right? You need a bigger bolster, or you need a blanket on top of your bolster or more blankets stacked up. And you can stay here, or you can start to take foot to the chair seat and one leg up, and then maybe both legs. There we go. Maybe both. This would take some weight off your low back, feet on the chair back, and then you could even start to push up here. Careful you don't push your chair away, so you're holding with your hands, right? Practice caution with this, please. I like this a lot. So this I can get the great benefits of shoulder stand and not have to work so much in the legs. But this one will start to engage your legs a little bit more. This is set up for another variation of shoulder stand. Eventually you would be balancing on your legs with your legs parallel to the floor, or balancing on your hands with your legs out. Okay, coming out of this is sometimes tricky if you don't do it the stupid way. It's easier. Sorry, I just snorted. Oh my God. All right, feet to the chair, and then watch out for your hair. And then roll down. Hey, there you go. All right, and then I like this a lot because you can just hang out here in the Supta Baddha Konasana just for a moment and let your spine relax, especially if that was an intense back bend with your legs going out over the chair back. All right, we're gonna move into Matsyasana fish pose. So coming off the bolster and off the chair, set up, rolling over to your side.
For fish pose, I'm gonna use the bolster again, just because I really like using a bolster for Matsyasana. You don't have to use the bolster. I'm gonna set the chair off to the side. Another really great fish setup is, I'll show you blocks and bolster. So I'll show you that first. So the blocks, we'll go one block under your heart, and you can have it down under the back of your heart. You can have it on its lowest height. And the second block can be in the same height or gone. Okay, so your head, top of your head would come to the floor. Or you could go second height, lowest height, shoulder blades, head. All right, so play with that. A couple different ways you can do this, I'll show you. Set it up on your shoulder blades, right in the mid upper thoracic area. Yeah, okay. And then head back. And then right here is a great little way to play with fish pose Matsyasana. If you wanted to work on more of the neck extension, you're gonna lift your head and take the top of your head to the block. And then squeeze your shoulder blades into the block. You could always cross your ankles here and let your knees open. But you're pushing into the block with the top of your head if you're taking that variation. And then if you wanted to use the bolster, and play with the blocks if you need to if you just want to use one block, maybe just the single block on your back on the lowest height. And then here again, head to the floor. Pressing the chest up to the ceiling. And the shoulder blades are kind of squeezing in and pushing down on the block, opening the chest. Okay, armpits open out. All right, and then there's the bolster, which is my favorite. Just softer and gives me more support around the upper back. And then you can take your head to the floor here. And then push down into the bolster with your triceps and your elbows, and that pops your chest up. And then if you can squeeze the back of your head into the bolster, I'm not even on the bolster anymore with my upper back. I'm completely off the bolster. This is a good training for fish pose Matsyasana. That can be a really challenging posture. Coming back down, lifting your chin to come up out of it, and I'll show you without any props, Matsyasana. And you can take it however you like with the legs, traditionally or classically if you want, lotus position. If lotus seems too intense right now, if you're not ready for it, don't do it. Okay, and then I'm gonna come down on my back. I'm gonna take my hands down and palms up and pull my sit bones under, head back to the floor, grab my feet and press my knees down to the floor. And then I'm squeezing my elbows in and pushing down on the floor as if the bolster was there. All right, and then unwrap your feet if you've got that. Lift and lower. Move your blocks out of the way, move your bolsters out of the way if you're still using those, and then we'll come into a reclining twist. I'm gonna let my knees go off to the left. You can take any variation here. I'm gonna pull my right leg up a little higher, stretch out the right leg, catch my right foot with my left hand, and then let my low back open. And then I'm drawing the top of my right shoulder head down towards the floor rather than my shoulder blade. So the shoulder head is moving down, so my chest is lifting up, and the right side abdomen is pulling over as I'm driving the right outer shoulder head, top shoulder head down into the floor, so the deltoid muscles rather than the shoulder blade. Shoulder blade muscles are actually pressing my right armpit up and chest up. Same thing on your left side. You're driving down into the floor with the left shoulder up here, not in the back shoulder blade. The shoulder blades are both pressing your chest through. Then I'm going to reverse this. Bend the knee, slide it back over to the floor with my foot, and then coming over into a constructive rest position. Resituate your hips as you need. I'm going to let the twist settle out before I move on to the second side. So I just let the twist untwist, right? Sound effects when you don't know what word to use, yeah? Now I'm going to take my knees off to the right.
And then I'm going to adjust my left leg up, pull it up. Right hand, left foot. And here again, I'm gonna just, you can see better on this side, I'm not jamming the left shoulder blade down. I'm actually rolling open with the top of my left shoulder head, driving it down into the floor. And then pushing also into the top of my right shoulder head above the shoulder blade. So I can pull back with my left abdominals, press down slightly with the left hip, but press the chest up to the ceiling. And I just keep my gaze up to the ceiling. I don't need to look off to the left. It's really not going to do much. If you look off to your right, you'll actually feel more down in here because of the nature of the fascial line, the line that crosses around the lateral line. It's not important. It's just, if you take your head off to the side, it really doesn't do much other than just turn your head to the side. But if you take it to the right, the nature of the fascial system is that it's going to stretch down here more. All right, I'm going to come back over now, but first I'm going to reverse everything. Rebend the left knee, take my left foot down next to my right foot, so that then when I come back over, I'm pretty much right in natural lineup again. And I'm going to let the twist unravel here. Big breath in to make sure there's nothing left over of that twist. You can feel the breath move up your back muscles. And exhale out. And then I'm going to come up to seated. Come up however you like. If you want to roll off to the side and roll up, I'm just going to rock up straight through center. Take my legs out in a straight leg seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. If you need to sit on a blanket here, just to get the sit bones to lift out. So if in a straight leg forward fold you feel like you round under, let your hips lift higher, or actually lift your knees, pull your heels in, and then let your hips tilt. Okay, then you can fold over bent knees, and then maybe you can straighten out your legs. But the sit bones are stretching back, and your inner big toes are driving forward, heels driving forward. Squeeze your thighs so your kneecaps pull up, and try not to forward fold with your shoulders. Forward fold more with your core. You can take this more restorative if you want a block or bolster. You can rest your forehead. But keep your chest from collapsing down, okay? So keep your low belly pressing your chest forward. Okay, inhale, come up to seated. Take as long as you need in this forward fold just to let everything quiet down, preparing for a resting position. If you want to come back into a reclining Shavasana shape or a seated meditation, decide what suits you best here. All right, so I'm going to roll down. Let yourself relax, wiggle around as you need to, get your hips to soften, your thighs and your legs, shoulders, arms and hands relax, and your face and jaw. Soften your tongue in your mouth and your eyes behind your closed eyelids. And let the breath just move in and out of your nose, and take another moment here to open up that line of communication and listen to what you're hearing. Listen to the biofeedback that you're getting from your breath, your senses, all of them. And so hearing the thoughts, feeling the effects of your practice in your body, your skin, your bones, your muscles. Feeling the breath move in and out of your nose. And the breath in your mouth, you can feel it, you can taste it, you can smell it. Smelling the air. I mean, all of your senses, smelling the air. You know, what's going on around you. You're not trying to be oblivious to what's going on around you. You're just trying to be more at peace amidst what's going on around you, right? So notice that all of your senses, whatever you're sensing, there's still an inner peace that remains. And don't let it get squished out by those senses. Let the inner peace be louder, more vibrant. Let it require and give it more attention. Let it ask for more attention. And then be there for it. Be there with your peace. Please take as long as you have in this relaxation. And when you do in your practice, of course, as always, bow to you and tell yourself thank you and good job.